Before we get started, if you like what you see today and want more content from Phyrexian Pit, please hit that like and subscribe button, and be sure to smash that bell to stay in touch with all the videos that we put out. Hello everyone, and welcome to Phyrexian Pit. I'm joined here today by Charlie. Charlie, how are things?
As good as they can be. How are things with you, friend?
Going well, going well. So today we're returning to our Gauntlet of Jank, and we got some more good matchups for you today. And we're going to be starting off with 5-color Panharmonicon versus Startling Jeskai. So I'll be piloting Panharmonicon today. And so what is Panharmonicon? Well, Panharmonicon is this nifty little artifact that causes creatures and artifacts, when they come into play under your control, to trigger their abilities twice. So you basically get to double up on your ETB triggers, and we built the deck around that, or the deck was built around that, rather. Prophetic Prism fixes our mana and draws us some cards. Glintnest Crane can smooth out some of our draws, help us find our Panharmonicons. The top end, we have some Gear Hulks, pretty much the whole cycle, except for the blue. And then in addition to that, we also have a sweet little card called Eerie Interlude that once we get everything in play, it allows us to blink everything and redouble up, hopefully with Panharmonicon out, and we just outvalue our opponent that way. We want to give us a rundown of Startling Jeskai.
Yes, the Startling Jeskai is an interesting little mill brew centered around Startled Awake, which is a sorcery that puts 13 cards of your opponent's library onto their graveyard for only 4 mana, so it's pretty good. Unfortunately, at the time it was in Standard, there aren't really many other good ways of milling, so we're gonna have to center around casting Startled Awake essentially 3, maybe even 4 times. So the easiest way to do that is with doubling it up. So we have Jace Vryn's Prodigy, which could flip into Jace Telepath Unbound, which will let us cast our Startled Awakes when they're in the graveyard. We also have 4 copies of Narset in the deck, Transcendent, which will allow us to not only filter through our deck quicker to let us get to our Startled Awakes, but will also allow us to, if we've got the card in hand, bam, slam it down with the -2, it gets rebounds. You're going to be milling 26 cards over 2 turns. Pretty good. We've also got a cool, nifty little card called Geist Blast that offers as a removal spell, and then we can pay 3 mana, 1 blue, 2 colorless to exile it from our graveyard and also copy the spell. So there's some cool ways of being able to combo and mill. And then it's just your typical kind of removal package. We've got removal that'll just bark in tandem with our Jace, because we're going to be constantly, and our Narset. We're constantly drawing, and discarding cards. And we've even got Chandra Flamecaller, which is also a pretty good way of allowing you to filter through your deck. And if need be, you can also rush with the 3/1s, although I don't think that'll be much of a thing against a deck that's playing all creatures. So we'll kick it over to you for the games, TJ.
All right, well, thanks. And without further ado, we'll go ahead and jump into them, and I will give you a call afterwards, and we can talk about how the games went.
Sounds good, my man.
All right. All right, so we run the die roll, so it looks like we'll be going first. We have our Panharmonicon in our opening hand, and we have some stuff to do in the early game with Glintnest, so we're going to go ahead and keep this one. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and lead on the Lumbering Falls here, and pass the turn over to our opponent, and see what they're going to do. One thing that is definitely apparent about what happened in the practice matches is we have quite a bit of tap lands coming into play, so expect that to continue. Alright, our turn. We are definitely going to go ahead and play this Glintnest Crane. We're going to lead on the Aether Hub here, get our energy, and we're actually going to yield to all our energy abilities because they pretty much don't matter. And slam our Glintnest. Now, he is playing main deck negates, so it is kind of nice to be able to try and look for a second Panharmonicon. Unfortunately, a whiff is not the best. But we'll go ahead and ship it back to him and see how it goes. Looks like he's going to crack his Evolving Wilds for an island. Plays a forest. And ships the turn back to us, which is fine. So we'll go ahead and we'll play another tap land here. We'll go ahead and get in with our Glintnest Crane. And then post-combat, we'll go ahead and slam this second Glintnest Crane. And hopefully we'll find, like I said, another Panharmonicon to back up just in case he does have a negate here. And we're going to do this before we shuffle because we did put 4 non-artifacts to the bottom. So hopefully we'll get something good here. Now, I do like the Cataclysmic Gearhulk because he can get multiple Planeswalkers, so we'll go ahead and take that and put the rest on the bottom. We could have gotten the Prophetic Prism to double up our card draw with our Panharmonicon, but I think that will be okay. So Prairie Stream playing untapped, and he's going to ship the turn back to us. So we'll go ahead and crack our Evolving Wilds at his end step. We're going to grab a white mana because it's going to make this Gearhulk a little bit easier to play in the future, hopefully. Now, again, he is running main deck negates. He's only got a couple of them, though, so I think that we don't really have the ability to play around it here. We'll go ahead and swing with our Glint Nests. Alright, get in there for a couple points of damage, and then we'll see if we can Panharmonicon here, or if this gets countered. Okay, Panharmonicon hits. So next turn we can start doubling up on our triggers. Unfortunately, though, at the moment we don't really have anything great to get back trigger-wise. Alright, so he's going to go ahead and slam his Narset and see if he gets a non-creature, non-land card, which he fails to do here. So ship the turn back to us. Alright, and we drew an Evolving Wilds, which unfortunately does not do a whole heck of a lot. So what we could do is we could Cataclysmic Gearhulk here and sacrifice our board and try and get it back with Green Warden later on, both the Glint Nests, and then double up with the Panharmonicons. It's pretty tempting to do. We do have double green because we have the Aether Hub here to tap for green mana. So I think that's what we'll do. And we're going to go ahead and ignore this Narset. It's just too high loyalty in order to do anything. We could drop it down to 5, but then he gets it up to 6 on his turn. We have the Cataclysmic Gearhulk. We'd be fighting over it for a while. I think it's better just to keep the pressure on his life total, especially with where we currently stand. Play our Settlement, and then we'll go ahead and run out our Gearhulk here. Oh, actually, we can't run out the Gearhulk with having attacked with the Glint Nest Crane. So, we'll go ahead and pass the turn. Gonna go ahead and Narset here, see if he finds a non-land, non-creature card, which he did. Got himself his mill card. And this kind of goes back to what he was saying at the beginning of the game, where at the time there just was not a ton of good mill cards in Standard at the time. So this is probably the 3rd best mill card in Standard when Standard came about. Alright, so he's going to go ahead and ship the turn back to us. Noxious Gearhulk doesn't do a ton here, since he doesn't have any creatures. So here we're actually going to just attack with the single Glint Nest, and the reason being is because we want the second one for the holdout settlement here. So that way we can actually add colored mana, like so. And that allows us to preserve our energy for future Green Warden or Noxious Gearhulk here. So we'll go ahead and get our Cataclysmic Gearhulk down. And choose these two. Unfortunately, it doesn't do a whole lot against him because he only has a couple things in play. But it does increase the size of our board in general. So we'll go ahead and Evolving Wilds. And while we could do this, wait and do this, we're just going to go ahead and do this now. And ship the turn back to him. Now, Narset is getting close to ultimate, and her -9 is pretty good. However, we do have our other Panharmonicon down. So we don't really have to worry about that. So it's not the biggest deal if he does emblem it. He was able to get a combustible Gearhulk there with his vessel. Green Warden will probably have a few targets to choose from, especially if he starts milling us at some point. And he did find a Startled Awake. Plays the island. Alright, looks like he's going to Fiery Temper our Cataclysmic Gearhulk and see if he spends a second removal spell to continue to get rid of it. He does. And so he's building up his Geist Blast plus his Startled Awake next turn. And we drew a land here. So we're going to go ahead and play our tap land, run out our Green Warden, Green Warden, we're going to get back our Combustible Gear Hulk plus our Glint Nest, and then next turn we'll be in good shape to play quite a bit of spells. And ship the turn back to him. So he's actually going to be able to triple Startled Awake here by rebounding plus Geist Blast and Startled Awake. So he's doing exactly what his deck was designed to do. We might be a little bit slow here. Drew probably too many lands. Chooses not to copy it with Geist Blast, which makes me think that maybe he's holding a negate. We are actually out of lands here that we could have gotten. We probably should have cracked that in response to the mill spell. We'll go ahead and start off by getting in with our Green Warden here. And then we're probably gonna get to draw 6 cards with our Combustible Gear Hulk. Oh, we actually don't even have the ability to play it currently. So we'll go ahead and run out our Glint Nest. We'll go ahead and I'm tempted to get this other Panharmonicon, but I think the Filigree Familiar lets us actually get more power and toughness on the table. So we'll go ahead and gain 4 with our Filigree Familiar here, and we'll ship the turn back. Once again, chooses not to Geist Blast there. Alright, see what our opponent is up to here. Alright, Talent of the Telepath, and he's probably going to double up with the Geist Blast here. And unfortunately, that's the game for us. Gets to double up, mill us for 14 cards. Alright, ships back to us, and we go to draw, can't draw, and so we lose. So we'll go ahead and go on to sideboarding here, and we will see what happens in the next game. So sideboarding in this matchup is pretty straightforward. The only thing that we're going to bring in is the negates. And we're going to go ahead and cut a Reflector Mage, as well as a Noxious Gear Hulk. He's not really running any creatures, so the Reflector Mage isn't great, and neither is the Noxious Gear Hulk. So we'll go ahead and run it back like this. Alright, we'll go ahead and play first. We have 3 lands, we have a negate to back up our Panharmonicon. We're going to give this a shot. We can get a blue mana with our Evolving Wilds here, which we'll just do now. Save us some time, and ship it over to our opponent. Wandering Fumarole, pass backs to us. And what do we draw? Eerie Interlude, not too bad. Could help us out late game, so we're going to go ahead and play our planes and ship it back to them. The fact that we do get negate post board does help us out a bit, but he gets negates as well out of his sideboard, so now he's running a full play set. I'm going to go ahead and play a Jace here, and we can Reflector Mage that on our turn. Actually worked out really well that we have this Reflector Mage in hand. Going to bounce the Jace, make sure he can't play it next turn. Get a little tempo advantage here. Now, likely he probably has removal spell for the Reflector Mage, but maybe that'll tap him down off of negate mana if he does play that. No. So he leaves his negate mana up. We did draw a land, which is good. We can go ahead and get in here. And then we will play our Filigree Familiar. Gain a couple life, and increase the size of our board here. Now, we do have to worry about Radiant Flames wiping our board, but I think that he's probably going to want to play the Jace this turn. Now, we'll see if he has a tap land or not, because I think that could potentially dictate whether he gets to play the Jace. Because if he's sitting on a negate, he probably wants to keep that up for the Panharmonicon. Oh, I'm going to Radiant Flames for 3 here. Okay. Did not think he was going to do that there. But fortunately for us, that means that we get to land our Panharmonicon, because he is tapped down now. And we'll ship it back. Now, again, unfortunately, we don't have a ton of good value cards with the Panharmonicon. We can gain a ton of life with the Familiars here, but life doesn't matter a whole ton when you're up against a nil deck. Your life is actually the cards left in your library. We could potentially draw a land to get down this Noxious Gear Hulk to maybe kill the Jace before he gets a chance to turn it into a Planeswalker. But it doesn't seem all that likely to be able to do so. We have to hit an untap land off the top, but you never know. Gonna go ahead and loot here with Jace. see what he discards. Alright, discards a card draw spell, Dragon Lord's Prerogative, and gets down a Narset. Gonna take up the Narset, see if he gets anything. He got another Narset, so that means that we're probably not gonna be attacking that Narset. We could Cataclysmic Gearhulk here, just so that way we can draw a card with the Filgrieve familiar. That doesn't seem great though. I think what we'll probably do is we'll probably get in with the Filgrieve, play our other Filgrieve, and keep up our Negate instead. The Negate is just a nice little insurance policy, and potentially, if he does go to Radiant Flames us again, we can always counter it, and then in the future we might even be able to keep up our Eerie Interlude for both of them too, although we probably would be okay with them dying because we get to draw some cards. Now when his Jace does flip, we can Cataclysmic Gearhulk to pick off one of his Planeswalkers automatically. So if he plays a few things to flip it this turn, that's something that we could look at. Gonna go ahead and take down his Narset. We're gonna go ahead and negate this here because we don't want rebound to happen, and we want to keep our life total, quote unquote, the cards in our library, relatively high. Alright, so he doesn't have the ability to flip the Jace here. He needs at least 5 cards in his graveyard. So we can go ahead and get in with our Filgreaves, and then we can go ahead and slam this Cloud Blazer and draw 4 cards, gain 4 life. We're gaining a ton of life in this matchup, which would be good most games, but isn't exactly the best here. But more importantly, we're drawing cards with the Cloud Blazer at least. We're going to go ahead and play our tap land, and then ship the turn back. Now he does get a Jace next turn, which can flash back his Startled Awake, and he can actually still tick down his Narset to give it rebound. Or actually, I guess he can't, because Narset says it has to go from your hand, so you can't flash back to cast it back. He is going to loot here to flip his Jace. Discards his second Narset that we already knew about. Alright, gonna tick down on the Cloud Blazer, or tick up on the Cloud Blazer. Keep it from getting into the red zone next turn. Our turn. So I think we probably play the Servant and the Glint Nest here. First things first though, we're going to go ahead and get in with our Filgrieve Familiars, and we're attacking him directly, just ignoring the Planeswalkers for right now. So go ahead and play our Glint Nest Crane here. Grab a Prophetic Prism. Second Glint Nest Crane gets nothing, which is fine. So we're actually, I think, in a pretty good spot here. We can go ahead and play our Servant. We're going to set a stop on the main step here. The reason being is because if he doesn't do anything on his turn, we're probably going to blink just to reset the Jace, whatever he chooses, so that way we still have lethal. He is going to have to answer our board here, or start answering our board. Now, Radiant Flames doesn't do it here, because we can just blink everything with Eerie Interlude. Okay, takes down the Jace for the Radiant Flames. We are prepared for this. And then this should actually just straight up win us the game. We can go ahead and remove that stop. Gonna go ahead and tick up the Narset here. Gets another Narset. End step, we go ahead and get everything back with our Eerie Interludes. We get a ton of triggers that don't matter at all, since we just get the game here. Go ahead and draw a ton of cards. Add more cards to our hand. Any order. Get a Gearhulk, any order, get some energy. Now he can potentially snipe down one of our guys. Oh, and he does so by discarding Fiery Temper here, assumably, but it's, again, not going to matter at all. He was a little pinched on lands there in that game. Alright, so he Fiery Tempers our Servant. We play a land, we go to combat, and we punch him to death. On to game 3. Sideboarding for game 3 is the exact same. We're just going to go ahead and run this back. Alright, game 3. We are on the draw. I'm tempted to keep this. We have our Eerie Interlude. We have double Panharmonicon in case he has any negates. We're one land away from Pilgrim's Eye, which will let us get our other land that we need to cast the Panharmonicon. So we're going to give this hand a shot and see how it goes. Okay, we hit our third land for our Pilgrim's Eye. Unfortunately, we have a lot of colorless land, but we'll make do with what we have. Ship the turn back. Opponent plays a tap land and is going to send the turn to us. We hit another colorless land here. We can go ahead and play the Aether Hub and yield to all our energy abilities because they're annoying when they pop up. And we'll go ahead and play our Glint Nest Crane and see what we get here. Ooh, okay. So we have virtually 5 mana in hand. In that case, I think it's better to take the Combustible Gearhulk here. Prophetic Prism is nice, but we'll go upside and see what we can get. Plus the fact that if we can land a Panharmonicon, we have Eerie Interlude to protect it, and Combustible Gearhulk can just do so many broken things, draw so many cards, or deal a ton of damage to him out of nowhere. So he plays an island, and it looks like he's just going to ship the turn back to us. We're continuing to draw lands here. Getting a little bit flooded, but we have lots of good cards in our hand, so we can't complain too much. We'll go ahead and play our Pilgrim's Eye here, and we will get a Plains. That way we have our mana for our Eerie Interlude. Us drawing the mountain did help us there with this Combustible Gearhulk. 4 mana, passing the turn to us. I think it's pretty obvious that he has a counterspell of some kind here. So we're not going to run our Panharmonicon just straight into the counterspell. We'll go ahead and continue attacking. We'd like to get to a point to where we can set up to do something plus play Panharmonicon on the back of it. Filigree Familiar gets our board going a little bit more, and starting next turn, if he still isn't playing anything, we can leave up our Eerie Interludes to protect our board in case he has Radiant Flames. He could Radiant Flames here though, and wipe our board and still leave up negate mana, which it looks like that's exactly what he's going to do. We'll draw a card off of our Filigree Familiar. Prophetic Prism, that's a redraw, that's not the end of the world. We could just slam our Verdurous Gearhulk here, just to make an 8/8 Trampler. That's actually pretty good. That does mean that we don't get to Combustible Gearhulk next turn, but I don't think that's the end of the world. One of the nice things about this deck is there's plenty of creatures in it that are just good, regardless of the fact that we need Panharmonicon. Panharmonicon definitely puts them over the top, but just dropping an 8/8 trample is pretty hard for his deck to beat. And now he's at a point where he is pressured, and it could eventually lead to us being able to play a Panharmonicon. So we'll start by go ahead and swinging in for 8 damage here. Okay, so Fate Forgotten, he's going to go ahead and exile our big boy, which is fine. We'll go ahead and play our Evolving Wilds. He's still got his 2 mana for a negate here, so we'll continue playing around it just to be safe. Play our Prophetic Prism, and ship the turn back to him. Next turn, we can go ahead and land our Combustible Gearhulk. Alright, he's going to tap out for a Chandra here. We don't have anything to negate that or anything, but we do get to land our Panharmonicon next turn. Oh, he chooses to wheel here. Fiery Tempers just get discarded, no mana to actually cast them. So we'll go ahead and crack our Wilds, and we will grab an island. Okay, 6 mana, so we're going to go ahead and play our Needle Spires here, our tap land, get it out of the way. We'll swing down our Panharmonicon. Unfortunately, we did draw that negate 1 turn kind of late. But I suppose things happen. We have a negate for the next big threat, although we are going to start taking 6 a turn. The Combustible Gearhulk should be able to help stabilize us a bit, though. And I don't think that he can take the damage twice. I guess it depends on the first hit, what he gets. He's going to Jace. We don't have a negate for a creature, unfortunately. Can't counter that. Looks like he's going to play Needle Spires here and follow that up with a Startled Awake. We do have the ability to counter this. We're going to go ahead and counter it just because we can land our other Panharmonicon next turn if we so choose. And actually getting attacked for 6 damage isn't the end of the world. We do have quite a few ways to gain life in our deck. Makes a couple tokens, and probably going to get in the red zone with those said tokens, and ship the turn back to us. So I'm actually going to just play another Panharmonicon here, get our second one down, and we'll go ahead and play a Chump Blocker. Hopefully he won't have a removal spell for it. And I think next turn we're going to do some really wonky things. Now he can flip the Jace here. Okay, gonna Fate Forgotten one of our Panharmonicons. Would have liked to have had the negate for that, maybe, but can only play around so many things. Gonna loot and transform with the Jace here. And in our set here, okay, Planeswalker Tron. Looks like he's gonna take up the Jace on the Servant. Passes to us. Okay, so I think that we go ahead and start off with a nice fat combustible Gearhulk. Ooh, okay, so he takes the damage and eats 10 from a Panharmonicon and 2 3-drops. So I think he has to let us draw here, and he does. Unfortunately, we did not hit a land. We can tap our Servant here to leave up Fairy Interlude, or Eerie Interlude, which I think we will. We'll pass back to him. We're still in decent shape here. Okay, so looks like he is going to Startle the Wake here. We're going to go ahead and counter this, because if he counters back, he can't leave up a Fumarole, which means we just win with the Gearhulk here. So we'll go ahead and negate. His negate does get rebound. I forgot that his Narset only rebounds spells cast from his hand. So unless he has some way to stop the Gearhulk here, with 2 lands, there wasn't a way that was going to happen. Alright, so I guess we start by getting in for 6. I'm not going to attack with the Servant because I'd rather have the mana here. I don't think that 2 damage is really that big of a deal. Oh, and we got there. Good game. Good game.
Jeez. That second game was just, I literally didn't try, like, I drew 1 land. I had 3 lands in my opener, and I drew 1 land. The crappy part about the end game there was, like, there was a point where I hit you for the Chandra where I'm like, I could pitch the hand, but if I pitch the hand, then I ditch the Exile Enchant, or the Exile Artifact. And so I'm like, so if I pitch this, I might not have a way of dealing with the double Panharmonicon, and you, of course, we knew you had the combustible, so I'm like, well, he gets 2 charges with the combustible, it's over. And then you just hit the 10 with it, and that was over.
Oh, did you know I had the combustible? Oh, that's right, I forgot. I revealed that to you.
That was the whole reason. Like, I would have just, ordinarily, I would have just not even thought about it. I would have just dipped my hand if I didn't know about the combustible, but I'm like, I can't let him have 2 of those up at once. So I had to hold on to that to be able to blow that up. I didn't know you had 2 Panharmonicons, but once you played the second, I was like, well, that was definitely the right play, unfortunately, because then you would have gotten 3 off and you would have just won right there. So I at least stalled it, but it wasn't enough. But the cool thing was we at least got the win on that first one. And then, of course, the freaking Geist Blast never came back.
All right. Well, anything further to add about that one?
No, I don't have anything else. Just, yeah, good games all around.
Yep, good games.